Bet horse racing on DRF Bets. We'll match your first deposit of $200. Get free expert picks and past performances, plus weekly cash back. All from Daily Racing Form, the most trusted name in horse racing.
Bombs away in the Breeders' Cup? I hope so. We're going to talk about 5 long shots that I believe have a chance to outrun their high morning line odds. 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. 2 of them are impossible to find. Maybe not quite. They're both 30 to 1. We're going to talk about the first 30 to 1 shot. It's in race number 7 on Friday in the juvenile fillies. Let's go ahead and take a look at the field. 2-year-old fillies going 1 mile and 1/16. And look, no knock on the favorite. She's Chocolate Gelato, number 10. And she's good. She won the Frisette in better than looked fashion. She has earned good numbers, and she's fast. Let's take a look at the second page just to get this out of the way. Field of 14 will run 1 mile and 1/16. And good luck to Raging Sea from post number 14. By the way, I do like a horse from post 14 a little bit later on Saturday that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Let's go back to page 1 again. And this crazy horse that I think has a chance to outrun her odds. And she definitely is crazy. She's number 4, trained by Dallas Stewart, and her name is Sabra Tough. She's a gray daughter of Cross Traffic, and she's listed at 30 to 1, and she could be 99 to 1 because when you look at her form, you think she has absolutely no chance. Here's why I think she does have a chance. Her first 4 starts were all in sprints, and she ran well in each of those. She won her career debut. She finished 2nd in a stake race. She finished 3rd in a grade 3 at Saratoga. She split the field in the grade 1 Spinaway. And then last time out in the grade 1 Alcibiades, she was 74 to 1, and she finished 5th by 6 lengths. Here's the thing about the Alcibiades. It was a race that was largely dominated by frontrunners. The first, 3rd, and 4th place finishers were the 1, 2, 3 pace setters. The only horses to make up any ground were Chop Chop, the runner-up. She's in this field as well. In fact, she's one of the contenders. And Sabra Tough. When you get a chance, go to Formulator and watch the entire trip for Sabra Tough. She's far back early. She uncorks a huge move into and through the far turn, and then she flattens out. It was not a bad race. I'm not suggesting that Sabra Tough will win the juvenile fillies. I think the race goes through trainer Todd Pletcher with Chocolate Gelato and perhaps even Atomically. But for a crazy filly to maybe hit the board and turn the Exacta, Tri, or Super into something memorable, take a long look at Sabra Tough. Dallas Stewart is a guy who's not afraid to take a shot, and every now and then his double-digit long shots outrun their odds, and I suspect that Sabra Tough could do just the same thing. That's race number 7 on Friday. Race number 8 on Friday is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf, and another large field. We talked briefly in the earlier segment about reasons why Meditate the morning line favorite, might be vulnerable. Trainer Aidan O'Brien is winless from 15 starters in this race. Meditate has never raced around a turn. The longer distance potentially compromises her chances. Having said that, she's the class of the field going in. But this is a race that I think could spell upset. Let's take a look at the second page, and the long shots that I like, look, they have to overcome the draw, but I'm going to talk briefly about number 12, Midnight Mile, and to a lesser extent, number 11, G. Lori. Midnight Mile is a European filly. And by the way, Europeans have only won this race twice. So she has that historical hurdle to overcome, Midnight Mile, but she outran her odds in both starts. She won her career debut at 14 to 1 in July. Then she was off until October, and she was 22 to 1 in a grade 3, and she overcame a trip. She was blocked late. She had to switch out. She angled out. She was up late. She ran that 7 furlong race like a filly that wants more ground. And by the way, that race that she won has been won in the past by good fillies in Europe. It was only a grade 3. I get that. But it's a race that has been a precursor to Future Class. So I think that Midnight Mile has a big chance to outrun her price. She's making only the third start of her career. That's okay. 8 of the 14 Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies turf winners were making only their third career start. It's a very unique pattern specific to this race. Another filly making her third career start is G. Lori, and you need to go back to the formulator replay and watch the grade 1 Natalma. She was blocked the length of the lane. G. Lori was. She never had a chance. She finished third by 1 3/4 lengths. I think she might have won that race, and it with a better trip. If she had won that race, G. Lori, we'd be talking about her as one of the favorites. So my top selection is number 12, Midnight Mile, but I respect G. Lori. And look, they're both double-digit prices. You can bet more than one horse in a race. So Midnight Mile and G. Lori, a couple of long shots to consider in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies Turf on Friday. Let's turn our attention to Saturday and talk a little bit about the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Sprint. It's race number 7 on Saturday, and one of the most heavily favored runners of the entire Breeders' Cup. With all due respect to Cave Rock and Flightline, Jackie's Warrior is going to be a short price in the Breeders' Cup Sprint for all the right reasons. He's fast. Let's take a look at the second page of the entries for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. There's Jackie's Warrior. He's quick in a race that does not have a ton of early speed, not the type of speed that we sometimes see in this race. Occasionally you get a Breeders' Cup Sprint where they go 21, 43, and it sets up for closers. Well, look, this year's sprint is not exactly loaded with speed. Jackie's Warrior should have a relatively soft trip on or near the front end, and from where he's drawn near the outside, Joel Rosario has options. But let's go back to page 1, and I want to talk about a crazy horse in this race. He's number 7, Super Ocho. He's 30-1 on the morning line, and he should be every bit that at post time for the Breeders' Cup Sprint. This is a good horse from Chile. He goes into the Saturday Breeders' Cup Sprint having won only 4 of 15, but he won his U.S. debut this summer at Mountaineer. Who cares, right? But he won by 10 lengths. He misfired next time on grass. It's his most recent start, Super Ocho's most recent start, that hints to me that he's a type of horse that could at least outrun his odds. I'm not saying he's going to beat Jackie's Warrior or even the mare Kamari, who I respect as well. Those are the 2 favorites in the race, and they could run 1-2. All I'm saying is that Super Ocho has a chance to outrun his odds, and we're going to take a look at the entire running of the Grade 2 Sanity to Sprint. And Super Ocho is number 5 in the white cap. He's a speed horse. There he is, right in between horses, right? So for a speed horse, you expect, well, he's going to go on with it. But he doesn't. Hector Berrios took hold, and it turned out to be a bad move. He steadied, he checked, he shuffled back, he's pulling again. When this happens to a front runner, many times that front runner will say, that's it for me, I'm done. And they just back right out of it. Well, to Super Ocho's credit, he didn't back out of it at all. He said, okay, that's the hand that's been dealt me. I'm just going to play it. And Berrios took him to the outside. He pressed 3 wide, and they are flying up on the lead. 21.58, the half in 44.18. And that's Super Ocho on the lead, turning for home at 10-1. This was not a stellar field in the Sanity to Sprint Championship this year. But Super Ocho, he's on his wrong lead. He's fighting back. He's trying his best after that shuffle and early trouble. And he's still fighting in there late, but he's third across the wire behind Howbeit and CZ Rocket, and he ran well in defeat. Super Ocho did. Saturday in the Breeders' Cup, he's facing an entirely different group of horses, much better horses. But this race, as I said earlier, it does not include a ton of early speed. And Super Ocho, if he can avoid that shuffle that he got last time out, I think Super Ocho could definitely hit the board in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, and he is listed at 30-1 on the morning line. Race 8 on Saturday is the Breeders' Cup Mile, and I just don't buy Modern Games at 7-2. I think there are reasons to suspect that he doesn't have to win this race. He's done a lot of shipping. When he won the Woodbine Mile with the 112 Beyer speed figure, he had very favorable conditions. He went back to Europe. He's back in the U.S. There's a lot of things for Modern Games to overcome, and he might just do that. Because he's a good horse, right? He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf last year. He's a Grade 1 winner this year. Modern Games is good. But there's another horse who is good also, or at least he used to be. Let's take a look at page 2 of the Breeders' Cup Mile. A field of 16 entered. The two also eligibles, 15 and 16. But the horse that's going to end up breaking from the far outside post, it's crazy to back a horse from post 14, right? Domestic Spending, not only that, but he has not started since August of 2021. Do you really think that Chad Brown would be running Domestic Spending in the Breeders' Cup Mile if this horse wasn't training up a storm? Of course not. In fact, after drawing post 14, he actually considered scratching from this race and sending Domestic Spending to Del Mar for the Grade 2 Seabiscuit. But here he is in the Breeders' Cup Mile, breaking from post 14. He's a Grade 1 winner, a multiple Grade 1 winner, Domestic Spending is. He has run well fresh in the past, not off a 14-month layoff, but he does fire fresh, and he has that guy, Flavian Pratt, to somehow orchestrate a trip. And I don't know how Pratt will do it, but if anyone can, it is him. He's the best jockey in the country, in my opinion. Domestic Spending has a lot to overcome, but he packs a wallop in the stretch. He's training great. He will fire first start back, and I think he has a chance to outrun his 8-1 morning line price. Race number 9 on Saturday. It's the last of the 5 long shots, and I don't know that 6-1 qualifies as a great long shot, but Society is listed as the 4th choice on the morning line, and those fillies who are listed in front of her, they're all good. Nest is the best, most accomplished 3-year-old filly in the country this year. Malathot has never lost at Keeneland. She comes off a romp in the Spinster. Search Results, I'm not sure a 1 1/8 is her trip, but she defeated Malathot twice. The filly that I like to steal this race, I think she's the controlling speed, and that's number 8, Society. Let's take a look at her win in the Grade 1 Cotillion last time out. And this is the type of trip that I think she could get in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I know there's some good fillies behind her in the Distaff, but Society should be loose on the lead, just like she was in the Cotillion. She opened up, she went fast, and she ran them off their feet. She won by nearly 6 lengths with her second consecutive triple-digit Beyer in a race that really lacks another front runner. I suppose number 5, Awake at Midnight, could potentially give her a little bit of pressure, but Society is quick. I think she's the speed of the field. She's training great. I expect Society to take the lead and race gate to wire in the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I don't think we're going to get 6-1, but I will settle for 4-1 for the potential lone front runner in the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and that's number 8, Society. Let's take a quick review of the 5 BC bombs that I think have a chance. I'm not saying they're going to win, except for Society, who I do expect to win. The other 4 are primarily prices, horses that could outrun their odds. Saber Tough, a bomb at 30-1 in the juvenile fillies on Friday. Midnight Mile, 10-1. Her and G. Laurie. Take a long look at both those in the juvenile fillies turf. And then on Saturday, Super Ocho in a Breeders' Cup sprint without a lot of speed. Super Ocho at 30-1. He will be forwardly placed. Domestic Spending, it's a reach from a bad post with a long layoff, but he packs a wallop in the lane. I expect Domestic Spending to run very well at odds of 8-1. And then finally, I really do like Society to steal the Breeders' Cup Distaff. Those are 5 Breeders' Cup bombs Friday and Saturday. Breeders' Cup 22, Friday and Saturday at Keeneland. I'm Brad Free, and I'll talk to you next time.